Welcome to the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. I'm your host, Deb Masner. I'm a registered nurse, health coach, and alcohol-free badass. I have found that there's more than one way to address drinking. If you've ever asked yourself if drinking is taking more than it's giving, or if you've found that you're drinking more than usual, you may have reached your own alcohol tipping point. The Alcohol Tipping Point is a podcast for you to find tips, tools, and thoughts to change your drinking. Whether you're ready to quit forever or a week, this is the place for you. You are not stuck and you can change. Let's get started. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate you. I want to take a sec to invite you to the next Alcoholiday. It's a monthly dry group where I help people practice not drinking. This is for you if you feel like you're struggling, if you feel like you're stuck, if you feel like you're broken, you're never going to get it. I want to just support you and arm you with lots of different tools to battle cravings, work on your thinking about drinking, be more kind and compassionate to yourself as you're doing this. You know, drinking is a habit, and it's probably something you've done for years or decades even. So it takes a while to unwind it. And that's why I'm so passionate about focusing on practicing not drinking, working on progress, not perfection. I love the saying, focus on the direction, not perfection. And I think it's important just to have these types of groups, programs that just give you a safe place that has no shame, no judgment. A safe place where you can just learn new tools and just start unwinding the habit so that it gets easier and easier for you to drink less or not at all. I would love to have you join the next Alcoholiday. It starts the first of every month. As a podcast listener, you always get 20% off by using the code LOVE, L-O-V-E. And it is hosted on a private platform. It is a HIPAA-protected platform. It's really important to me as a nurse just to have privacy and a safe place for you. And what you get is daily emails, lessons, accountability. You get lots and lots of tools to battle cravings. You get a really detailed guidebook, journal to help you out during those 30 days, 31 days, whatever the length of the month is. And then you get downloadable audio meditations, just something to go to when you're feeling a craving. We also do weekly group chats, weekly group support calls led by me and another sober coach twice a week. And then there's also a private chat where you can just share with others, support others, and it's just a great place to practice not drinking. The cost is $89. US dollars, that is. So it's less than $3 a day. Plus, use that LOVE code to get your discount. And just a little background on me, I have been a registered nurse for 20 years. I'm a board certified health coach. I'm a smart recovery certified facilitator, an addiction certified mental health professional. I'm a mindfulness instructor. And then you all know I like to call myself an alcohol-free badass. I've been alcohol-free for 4.5 years now. So I would love to see you in the next group. You can sign up at alcoholtippingpoint.com/alcoholiday and join there. I also will link it in my show notes. Wherever you are with your drinking journey, just know that I am rooting for you, that you are not broken, and you can change. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in to this special episode of the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. I wanted to share this conversation that I had with my friend, Heather Lowe. She is the founder of Ditch the Drink, and she has her own new podcast. She's on season 1 right now. It's called Peripeteia. Check it out. Yes, I had to look up Peripeteia. I was like, I don't even know what that word means, but it's similar to a tipping point. It's a reversal of circumstances. It's a turning point. And she just started it, and I was honored just to help her with it and be on one of her first episodes. And that's what this is a recording of. This is a recording of our episode about friendship. And I think it's just a great example of something that is so important to all of us and something that is so impacted by our drinking. So much of our drinking started with our friends. And then when we decide, like, okay, I think I'm done with drinking, or I need to take a break, or I'm done, then it really changes our friendships. And one thing I've noticed also throughout the years of doing this is just how much people need connection, how much they need friends. So I think that this conversation will give you just a behind the scenes of Heather and my friendship. I've gotten to know her really well in the last year. We finally got to meet in person in real life in Seattle in September. It's just been great having her as a friend. But I also hope that it will give you some ideas of what you want your friendships to look like, and just some ideas as you're reflecting about your past friendships, because they can change and people do come into your life for a season and a reason. And we talk about all of that. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation. Do go check out Heather's podcast, Peripeteia, and check Heather out at Ditch the Drink. She is on Instagram and she has her website, ditchthedrink.com. And she's just my people. She's my girl. So I hope you enjoy this. Thanks for listening.
Bye, babes. Listen up. You landed here at the Peripeteia podcast, and I'm so glad to have you. Enjoy these real girl talk conversations about the things that matter. From the ordinary to the extraordinary, and every plot twist in between, I welcome you. Life has a way of throwing us curveballs, and these are the stories of female resilience while navigating change with newfound purpose. This is Peripeteia. I'm so glad you're here. Let's embark on this journey together. Here we go. How are you coming in today?
I'm feeling good. I was just thinking to myself, like, I am so glad I don't have a migraine.
Oh, I know.
Those were days of so I feel like, okay, I'm back. I'm productive. I have a productive day today. So I'm coming in good. How about you?
Good. I'm excited because, well, I'm overwhelmed excited because I am leaving after work tonight for an overnight and a day in Michigan with some friends.
Who are these friends then?
These friends, so it's kind of funny because I call them my sober friends. And so my other friends go, well, what do you call us? Okay. And speaking of friends, speaking of friendship, our topic here. And I like my drunk friends. These are my sober friends. These are like drunk friends. So it's kind of funny. But these are girls that I met, which, gosh, I cannot wait to get into our conversation by going on a sober retreat.
Oh, yeah.
And now they've become some of the best friends I could ever have. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I wanted to start with our friendship. I wanted to start like backwards, kind of about how we became friends. And then we can go from there and talking about friendship and friendship through the ages and gaining friends and losing friends and the whole tricky situation when it comes to women and friendship. First of all, Deb, so I started following you on Instagram, the alcohol tipping point. Somehow we started following each other. And I feel like anybody who's a friend of mine, I have a little bit of a crush on. There's something that I love or respect or admire about them. And I felt that with you, one, because I felt like you were really smart and you were a nurse, and I respected that. All my college roommates were nurses, and I was a social work major, not smart enough to be a nurse. So I loved nurses, but also was a healthcare recruiter and always in healthcare, worked in hospitals. I'm a huge fan of nurses. And then you had a sense of humor. And so that matters so much to me. So I loved your sense of humor. I could see that we just clicked. And so we started maybe commenting on each other. Maybe started, just sliding into DMs, taking it, like getting a little bit from a like to a comment to a message or whatever, to maybe like a Zoom call or getting to know each other more one-on-one. But you said something to me one time. You said, I just really like you. And that was music to my ears. It was like, of course, that's exactly what anybody wants to know. And I thought, that's the nice thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm going to link arms with this person, bring her closer. And we got to be friends. So I really felt like it was you that did that. And I'm forever grateful. But why don't you share who you really are and your recollection of our meeting?
Who I really am. I'm really the person behind alcohol tipping point.
I'm really a nurse and I'm really not that funny.
Right. And yeah, so I'm just, I think I'm just like a really basic person who lives in Boise, Idaho, like your typical suburban mom, nurse, wife, all of that good stuff. I'm pretty down to earth and ordinary. And so I think it's funny, like I looked at you and your account and just like, oh wow, she's so successful. She's funny. She's someone I would wanna be friends with, is how I felt, like, no matter what. Even, like, in my drinking days, I'm like, "I would be friends with Heather." And then now that we're both sober and have all this in common of having a business, having our own online thing, because that's a whole unique set of circumstances. But you also have, like, teenage daughters. You've been married forever. You've been in healthcare in your own way. So I just was like, "This gal's my girl."
Yeah. We have a lot in common and we have a lot of differences. It's sort of perfect. We have like, I mean, I think in regards to friendship, there are things that can immediately bond people, like attract or repel, right? So some things that are immediately bonding. Well, one for us, the sober coaching world, not everybody in our real life understands that or knows the players or knows the game or knows the landscape and what that looks like. And we do. So we can support each other as women in business and as sober coaches. And that's a very unique thing that connects us. And then mom of two girls. I mean, I love it. We get it, right? We totally get it. And then sobriety. Sobriety in itself is a huge connector. And it's an unspoken bond between you and anyone if they look like you or not. It's just that automatic like respect and admiration for somebody who's overcome something. You know what that is because so have you, right? So there's a real glue there that's stronger than drinking, than people that drink. I mean, I used to look for the drinkers, right? That's why you were texting me because you knew we would have been the drinkers together for sure.
Yeah, when we were talking about doing this podcast, I was thinking about, like, what do I look for in a friend, and what did I used to look for? And on my list of, like, oh, I want them to be funny, but, like, number 1 or 2 on my list before was, do they drink? Like, that was my one of my top requirements for a friend, and man, just looking back now, I'm like, wow, I really missed out on some amazing people, some amazing friendships. And so to see it change and evolve, I mean, our friendships change so much throughout our lives, but now this additional like change of being sober and navigating friendships, like that's different as well. It's all been different throughout my life. Friendships have.
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit. First of all, I wouldn't know how to be friends with somebody who didn't drink as a drinker. Like that would make me really uncomfortable. I would be very weirded out. I definitely like had no understanding for people. Why wouldn't you drink and how would you have fun? Like, I mean, no, that's a no for me as a drinker and as a sober person. Of course, that has completely changed. We're meant to change and our friendships are meant to change and our values change. Like that's evolution, that's growth. It's a really positive thing. But I want to mention in the friendship world, it's hard because we have this idea of BFF, best friend forever, that we're supposed to have somebody who's in our like our day one, our OG, our person, our lobster, right? There's all these our mate for life, our girlfriend mate for life that we're supposed like this idea, this story. Maybe it's in my mind, but I think it's out there, or even a pack of people, even a squad of people, right? That are tribe that are there for the long haul. And I know I have felt rejected and disappointed when that hasn't happened for me, because for a long time I did have that. And actually, I was a gripper to friendships. Like, my first friend was a year older than me, and we played all day, every day. And I was 4 years old, and she was 5 years old. You know what that bitch did? She went to kindergarten. How dare her? Now what was I supposed to do all day? She was at kindergarten and I was not. And it broke my heart because now our friendship changed. She wasn't there to play with all day. Then she made new kindergarten friends, right? And immediately my heart was broke. And I kind of have kept that my whole life. Like I'm a gripper, And so it's been hard to have people in and out or leaving me in this idea that they're supposed to be forever. How does that sit with you?
Wow, I can't believe you remembered that from being 4. That's pretty amazing. That's like a core memory for you. I think that I've come to terms with it, the
Mhm.
changing friendships. I think I've always kind of been a bit of a chameleon too. I was thinking about like I kind of do well on the fringe of groups. And so that has helped me kind of like evolve my friendships a bit from like who I hung out with in elementary school, like you were talking about. We also moved from Lewiston, Idaho to Moscow, Idaho when I was in 3rd grade. So that was my first kind of like severing of friendships. And I think that kind of helped in a ways because it was like, oh, now it's time to make new friends. What does this look like? And I felt like each kind of transition from like elementary to junior high, it was like, oh, now the friends are changing again. And then high school, oh, they're changing again. And then college, and then mom friends and work friends. Like I think that I kind of compartmentalize them a little bit more that it sounds like you're a gripper and you want them for life. And I'm kind of like, I'm okay with the different compartments of friends. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense, and I think it's really healthy. I think everybody listening to this should take note, including me, because there is a need for different kinds of friends. Not everybody is the ride or die, right? And not everybody is for the whole lifetime. There's friends that are there for a reason or a season, and that's okay. And it's important to have all those different compartments of friends. And for me, I just think my claws in people, and I'm not a chameleon. That's where we're different. I'm the head of the pack. I'm the bossiest boss. I mean, when I look at the Peanuts characters, I'm Lucy. I mean, who are you? You're probably Charlie Brown, right? Maybe Peppermint Patty.
Snoopy. I think I'm
You're
kind of Snoopy.
Snoopy. Yeah, you're Snoopy. When I look at the Muppets, I'm Miss Piggy. You're Curly.
And I love this.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh, you might be Piglet, right? Okay, I'm Jigger. It's like we need all kinds of people and all kinds of friendships, but being that kind of, I'm an Aries, first day of the first sign, just like, yeah, sink my claws into people and expect them to like be there forever. And it has definitely broken my heart when they've left for whatever reason. Like obviously, I thought my high school friends were also my elementary school friends. So I thought they were going to be there forever. And going to college, I made new friends. And some of my high school friends were actually hurt by this. But our friendship had to change because we didn't go to the same college. Of course, I was going to, you know, fill with new friends. And then, yeah, to early adulthood, and motherhood and work. But it has been, I put everybody in the same category. So I think it's really healthy to recognize different kinds of friends, different types of relationships, and they can help you in different ways.
Well, that's interesting that, yeah, I definitely see you as more of a leader and leader of the pack. I'm more of a joiner. So that is interesting, like how you viewed your friendships versus how I have. No, that's not to say I have had some friendships fade out that like really broke my heart. But I think that I've dealt with that now later. And it didn't have anything to do with sobriety or anything like that. It was just life changes. They got busy. I got busy. I still kind of miss them. There's still people I could reach out to though, and it would be fine. There wasn't like a breakup
A fade
or
out, just a fade out.
it was a fade out,
Yeah.
like the
I've
haircut.
had both. I've had I've had cut off. I've had like a situation or an argument or something that was just cut off both ways, me and others. And I've had the slow fade out too, which is just,
Mhm.
it slowly starts to. end until there's nothing. So if you think about, I know there's a saying that says like, you are like the 5 people you spend the most time with or something like that. If you think about those friends, I'd love to know a little bit about like who they are and what that means to you and how that has changed over the years.
Yeah. Well, I would put you as one of those 5 people now because one really cool thing that Heather and I have done, like, we have never met in real life. Which
Coming
seems
soon.
such a
Actually, I wanted to
shame.
say, and now a word from our sponsor. I'm just kidding. But we're going to meet live at Zero Proof Experiences Sober in the City in Seattle this September. So everybody, if you want to be our friend and meet us live, join us there. But yeah,
Yeah, and
yes, share,
I
share.
totally and like you said, like, I have made some of the most meaningful friendships at sober retreats within my sober groups. I've seen the other women, like, making friends and connections with each other, which I think is so amazing. But to your question, like, about the 5 reflections of yourself. So I say I put you in that category because we are like on Marco Polo all the time, just
Mhm.
chatting back and forth. And I think I also want to point it out for people who are listening, because I think a lot of people, their definition of friendship is like, okay, we're in person, we hang out, we go get coffee, but you can make a really meaningful connection online. That came out of COVID, right? Where we all really got more connected with technology. We also got very disconnected. I do like in real life things, but it is possible to also have a real connection online. Um, so yeah, I would say I would put you in that category. I have some, like, I guess, ride or die people that I know I could always reach out to at any point. I have a friend I went to nursing school with. I could reach out to her anytime.
Is she local?
And she actually lives in my neighborhood.
Okay. So do you see each other regularly?
No, no,
Okay.
not as much. Yeah.
Okay. How often do you get together and or connect? Is it like quarterly or twice a year and you just know you're
Uh,
there?
Twice a year, I would say. When she first moved into the neighborhood, it was like, "Oh my god, my bestie's here. Yay." But I was also drinking really heavily. But now, no, not as much. To be honest, like, I'm not that social. I always look at what you're doing in your life, Heather, and, like, it seems like you're always going out. You have all these events, all that you have this friends group you're going to this tomorrow, right? Or
Today.
Thursday? Yeah, today. Jesus. Yeah. Yeah, like, you're so social. And that's why I sent you that meme that Mel Robbins had posted about, like, all the people I would wanna hang out with are sitting home on their couches too, or what was
Yeah.
it she
Yeah.
said?
Totally. I get that. So what I want to say, like, there are some people, and I have these people too, that know me very, very well, have known me for decades, and I could count on them, like you said. Mel Robbins also did a friendship podcast, and she called it your 4 a.m. call friends. But she said people that you could call at 4 a.m. just to talk if you were feeling lonely. And I'm sorry, do not call me to talk unless you are lonely. Like, you can call me for an emergency and I will be there. But if you are feeling lonely, let's talk about it at 9 a.m. the next day.
It's hilarious.
Like, I would never call anybody to say, like, can we talk? I'm feeling lonely right now at 4 a.m. I would be like, are you awake? It's time for coffee. Like, maybe after 6 or 7 or 8.
It's so funny. My
Yeah.
sister would, though. She definitely would.
He would call you to say, I'm lonely, and you would answer.
Well, she gets up super early and she doesn't care that I don't. Like, my sister now is one of my best friends.
That's what I was going to say. My best friends are my mom is my best friend. My daughters are my best friend. And my mom's best friends are her 5 sisters. So, like, this is the other, like, illusion we have out there is that people have all these friends and you might be seeing what you don't have. And my mom, let's say, doesn't have friends, but she has 5 sisters that she's very, very close to. So whenever she says, something about Prince. I'm like, Mom, you've got the pot of gold. Like you have all the social life you need in those 5 women right there built in, right? And for me, I question sometimes I have insecurities about friendships or this or that, but like I was blessed with a mom that I'm so close to. She's my first call. She's my first call person. It's my mom. You know, she would be awake at 4 a.m. So that would be fine. You know what I mean? So yeah, there is that your family can be your friends and it's cool when that happens. I actually my sister and my brother-in-law are some of our best friends. And when you said that meme of like everybody I want to meet is also staying at home, avoiding everything, I love to go out. I'm very extroverted, obviously, all of that. But also through sobriety, my social circles changed and I didn't want to do the thing. I used to drink to tolerate social situations I didn't want to be in. And so my husband doesn't drink around me, so we don't drink. So going out for a drinking activity is not going to give us the same, you know, pleasure, joy, excitement that it used to. And I don't even think it used to. I think I always felt uncomfortable in those situations, and that's why I drink. But it at least took the edge off my anxiety. And now the good news is I just don't go. I just don't have to go. In fact, there was a big party in our town where I think everybody was invited. Everybody I know, everybody I'm friends with was invited and went, and we weren't invited. And I was so grateful, so happy that I
Well,
didn't get
that's good. You had
that.
more JOMO.
Yeah, I was like, thank God, because how would I go or how would I turn it down? I feel bad, like, but also I really, really, really don't want to be there. So just what a blessing to not be invited is how I felt. But my husband and I, our kids now busy, they've got their own license. They're out and about on the weekends and we're sitting at like the excuse used to be we got to drive the kids around or we've got kids activities. Well, now we don't. And also I think with raising kids, our social life was put on hold. So we've grown apart from people just because there hasn't been time with running the kids around. Well, now the kids are running themselves around, and my husband and I are bored sitting at home, right? And we're like, we actually don't really have any friends. We really don't have that. Like, our one favorite couple is busy this weekend. So, what are we going to do? So we're in that phase of moving towards empty nesting, kind of.
Yeah. Would you say like your husband's one of your best friends?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But he's not a girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Yes. It's so, so different, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah. I feel like,
It the same things and we have great conversation and stuff, but also he's just not.
yeah, yeah. I mean, my husband just doesn't get me. Sometimes he doesn't get it. And I think finding people that get it, that get you, especially like in the sober world, like it is so comforting because I think we just want to be seen and authentic and accepted for who we are. And I was gonna ask you, like, what do you look for in a friend?
Well, like a good time, somebody who's funny, sense of humor. Like I said, like, I don't know. I was class clown in high school. Like it is that for sobriety was scary to me because I have to be having I w- I mean, life isn't just a party or anything, but like I love funny people. People that can make me laugh. I have a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. I love to laugh. Like I love people that are adventurous and say yes to things. Just people that are like Debbie Downers or complaining all the time or looking at the worst of things or very serious people. It's hard for me because I really like to laugh fun. And the more ridiculous, like the happier, the harder I laugh and the more ridiculous it is. And when somebody can make me laugh, like when you say like you got to get it, like a sense of humor, you got to get it. Like when you're sending the memes that the other person's gonna get, like to me that is super super important. But also our friendship, which you were talking about, which a lot was created now on Marco Polo, which we check in all day long sometimes, and sometimes a day or two goes by, but we've very much become like daily check in friends. And it moved to a different level though recently. I felt we're like gotten to know each other, or like, seeing each other in different environments, sharing a little more about our days, sharing a little bit about our history. But very recently, when I was visiting my mom, I had a emotional situation, and you helped me walk through there. And I felt like that took our friendship to a different level because I was very vulnerable with you and sharing something that I hadn't shared before and sharing it while it was in process versus all wrapped up with a bow, right? And it was there was no mask of pretending to be something or pretending to have it all together. It was like, this is something I'm actually struggling with right now. And you helped me walk through that. And that's how you get intimate with somebody. That's how you form a deeper bond, I think, is by letting them help you and sharing not just your bright, sunny side, but your reality, your realness, and accepting help, accepting help from somebody. So I felt like that took us to a deeper level.
Yeah, and I feel safe with you too. And maybe it is the Marco Polo. Maybe part of it is we don't live in the same city. We don't see each other day to day. Like there's kind of some safety there too. Like, oh, I could tell her anything and then I can pop away. It's like
Right.
I
I'm not gonna see you at the barbecue on Friday and hold you to it, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's so interesting. It's just a different dynamic to friendships. But I think that's important too, like just to have flexible definitions of people in your life that support you, what a friend looks like, what you look for in a friend, how you want to show up as a friend, all of that.
How do you show up as a friend? Do you have like a friendship love language?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably quality time. And I say that even though I don't always get to spend time with people, but I want to.
Like quality time from the comfort of my couch.
But sometimes even just conversations are quality time, like how you're spending your time together. So quality versus quantity, I
Mm.
guess would be a better way of putting it. I don't like small talk. I think that's also why going to parties now is awkward. Like, where are your kids? How's the
Oh,
weather? You know what I mean? Like, I think that sobriety was a fast track to bigger conversations, bigger, deeper conversations.
mhm.
And that is important to me. I think just, yeah. So I guess how I show up for as a friend, I hope, is that I'm I will accept you however you show up. I'm non-judgmental. I'm here to listen, to help if needed. So I hope that that's how I show up as a friend.
Oh, I love you for that because it doesn't like I've said that this happens in new friendship too. Like I'll say something because I'm impulsive, and I had a friend once tell me I'm a blurter. So I'm somebody who thinks fly out of my mouth before I think about them, right? And so I say all sorts of things. Some might be true and some might change when the wind blows a different way. But then I felt like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Or you're going to think this about me. Or you're going to think that about me. You know what I mean? Or I talk too much about this. Because then I felt vulnerable and exposed if I've shared too much in a new friendship and that person's not ready for it. Or that person doesn't know enough about me. They don't know enough positive things to then have me share this, let's say, negative thing. And then they're going to think that's all I am. And then I'm going to make up stories in my mind. The story that we all have is, oh my God, somebody's mad at me or somebody hates me, right? That could be like the worst case scenario, which is, of course, often I look for evidence about why people don't like me, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm working on that, of course, but I think it's a natural insecurity that we have, or I shared too much. Being a Miss Piggy, I mean, that's a too much kind of person. So, of course, I am always sharing too much. And you are somebody who says that's okay. And I know you're not going to hold me to it anyways, because you're Snoopy. I'm going to come back the next day and have a different thought about that. And it's all going to be fine. And I think you look for the good and you see the good and you remind me and probably your other friends of the good, very non judgmental. And I'm certain you're like that as a coach too.
Well, yeah, and I don't think there's a line you could you could never share too much with me. You could even tell me about your daily bowel movements. I'm like, "I'm here for it. Tell me." Mhm.
Because you like me, because
That's the nurse that's the
yeah.
nurse in me. When we start
Yeah.
can yeah. There's never TMI.
Yeah, okay, so isn't that lovely too when you know you're with somebody that you couldn't overshare or that would be there for all of it because they're interested in you, because they're interested in you and excited about you and they wanna know about your life? That's
Yeah.
really sweet.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. One thing that's cool that I wanna tell everyone is so I've had, like, 40-year friendships. I am very lucky that I was from a small town, and the people that I literally knew in preschool continue to be my friends, are still my friends today. True story. I've got a handful of people that I'm very, very close to. My whole grade, really, we're still pretty tight. So that's why it was hard for me when I ditched the drink to find new sober people. I didn't think I needed new friends because I already had all these friends, right? And I didn't want to be a weird sober person myself. So why would I want to hang out with the weird sober people, right? And so I was very resistive. I was very hesitant. But I have found these new people, and there is this new bond. It is really beautiful. And there is fade away, and there is cut off from other relationships. And I think, like a garden, we have to prune sometimes. We have to cut off and we got to prune we got to cut back. We got to cut back on some friendships and some relationships so we can make room for growth and for new. And I've become a more interesting person by being friends with new kinds of people like you, a gal from Idaho, right? Like I didn't have a friend from Idaho before this. And in those new friendships, it's really fun to get to know people backwards. Like in my childhood, people know my grandparents and where I grew up and that I won the spelling bee or I got to the top of the rope in gym or that I was very good at, I was a pom-pom girl or I dated so-and-so or pretty girl. Like I never had to tell them anything because we grew up and they always knew everything about me, including all my aunts and uncles. I was a fourth generation to graduate from my high school. I like say I'm a pretty big deal around there. Like so people just knew me. But in getting to know new people, it's like, I don't know when their birthday is or what they like on their pizza or how they take their coffee or who their first kiss was. Or like, I'm learning these things backwards in my new friendships. And it's been really fun. It's been really fun to get to know people backwards. And we're doing that with each other. Like, it just comes up like, oh, tell me about your mom or tell me about your dad's upbringing or whatever it is. So there is something cool to that.
Yeah, what a good point. What a good way to look at it too. And how special that you've had those friendships for so long. I mean, clearly that means a lot to you. Like loyalty is probably one of your top values, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why I just assume everybody would be there for my whole life. Once they're in, they're in. Right.
Yeah.
Because once my heart is open to somebody, it's like I carry them with me. I value that so much. But there is something beautiful about letting go. And also I forced my friendship down people's throats. I mean, I've demanded us to stay close sometimes to a fault where it's like, if you could just let it go, it'll drown. But it's like,
Mhm.
well, it takes two to hold something up. So maybe just drop your end of the rope. Hey, it's okay.
Yeah, but I can see how it's heartbreaking. I mean, because our friendships are like another kind of love that we have and especially if someone's pulling away before you are or if you have like an actual friend breakup, I mean, that can be so devastating. I remember my daughter in 10th grade, which was the start of her high school, like her best friend broke up with her. Her best friend was like, "I think you're kinda holding me back. I wanna, like, meet other people." I mean, it was like a breakup,
Mhm.
and it was one of the hardest things she ever went through, and it was so heartbreaking, and she really grieved the loss of that friend, and so I think it's okay to grieve the loss of your friends because I know you've had some relationships like that that have
Mhm.
maybe it wasn't an outright breakup, but you lost those friends, and that is definitely something to grieve about.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Grief in friendships, because one, we don't have language for it. When there's a divorce or a separation, we have language for it. But often, well, in my case, even my friends have been in my life longer than my spouse, and I've been married for like 23 years,
I
right?
don't know. Yeah.
So these people that have been in your life, and a girlfriend, especially who you relied upon, like we already mentioned, for all these things that you don't go to your spouse for, right? For all
Mhm.
to be a source of support and care and concern and affirmation in all these ways. There's not a word for the breakup like there is divorce, and there's not a public acknowledgement of that sort of grief, of loss. And there is if the person dies or passes away, right? I've lost a lot of friends due to like tragedy or illness or accident, but there's there's a word for that, but there's not a word for when they're living, but the relationship is over.
Yeah, and then you feel like there must be something wrong with you
Yeah.
because there's not a lot of language out there about that, and not a lot of people talk about it, but I think it does happen. I think a lot of women and men, are hurting because of these lost relationships.
I think so too. And a lot of it is, I would imagine, misunderstandings too. And I know I can't blame everybody in my life because the truth is, as a drinker, like I don't know what kind of friend I was. I was in
Mhm.
my own head, struggling with my own things. I pride myself on being a good friend. Friendship is really important to me. I was also an only child. I was born an only child. So I think that's the other thing. Eventually, my parents remarried, and I have half siblings that are 10 and 12 years younger than me. And I have a stepsister. But for most of my life, I was an only child. So I found sisters for myself. And when I got in with somebody, I got in with them. And after the friend that left me to go to kindergarten, I made another friend. Now, this one was a year younger than me. So, right? Like I was going to be the one to go off. I was brilliant. I was going to be the one to go off and do better things. But she was an only child. And so it was perfect because I got to go on all her vacations. I got to be her plus one. We got to be each other's plus one for everything because the parents would want a play date or a playmate, and it always got to be me. And so I think that's why I've clung to people like family almost, is just an attempt to create my own. But you have siblings. You've got a brother and a sister, right?
I do, I do. But it makes so much sense what you're saying, and my niece is an only child. She's now a high school teacher, but I could see her really hang on to friendships. Friendships are so important to her, and she wanted to like I can see the loneliness that came from being an only child and the wanting to be with peers, like-minded
Mhm.
people. And then it was a hard transition for her after college, which I think it is for a lot of people after because college is so social. It's finally the end of all this social young peer-to-peer interaction. Now you're out in the real world and you're no longer with your friends. Like you're working now and
Yeah.
that's a huge transition. Yeah, so I think it makes sense that you being an only child might be a little lonely. And then the loneliness thing too, like that comes up again and again, especially as we get older. Like people are lonely
Well, mm,
and they are looking for friendships and they are looking for meaningful connections. And a lot of people are drinking because they're lonely. I mean, how many times have you heard people say, like, well, red wine was my best friend?
for sure.
Drinking's my friend. Yeah. So I think there's a huge connection there.
Absolutely. You read my mind because as you were talking, I was thinking like loneliness is an epidemic. It really, really is. And I think even people come to me for coaching support because they simply want to witness to their life sometimes, right?
Yeah.
They want someone to say, congratulations, and look what I did this week, and hear me, and here's my struggle. They're women like me, strong, independent women who think we don't need any help or anybody, or we're taking care of everybody else. They're caregivers, they're moms of kids with special needs, they're sandwich generation taking care of their parents. They've got big jobs, they're trying to hold it all together, but they need someone to see them. And it's worth it, just to get a coach, to have a relationship of somebody who sees them because we all want to be seen. But the only child is the thing is like a sense of belonging too, like a role that you play. And then built in if you have a family, like my mom is number two of five girls. So she's the second girl and there's all these things. And I've had to create that for myself. Like I have a weekly card club now. We play euchre, so there's four. women. And it's funny. We all have a role of who we are, right? Like we've got the funny hippie gal and we've got the practical gal, we've got the woo woo kind of gal and we've got me, the boss who's competitive and wants to win. It's so like, and it plays out and you can have a one-on-one friendship that matters. And I think your 4 a.m. phone call, your nursing school friend, she's that person. And that's an individual friendship. And then we have like a group of people. And that is like my core clubber for you. It could be who you are in your family, what role you get to play. And that gives a sense of belonging, I think, to something even bigger, that you belong in this group and you have a spot and a role to play. I think that's really helpful and healing for people.
Yes, I think such a good word, belonging, and such like a core feeling that we want. And I think it's partly why it's hard to change our drinking if we are belonging to like a drinking group and now we're different. Even if drinking's not your thing, if you have something else that you struggle with, and usually we hide it. Like we do want to present our best self. We don't tell our friends always what's really going on. We purposefully put our best self out there and because it is hard to share that we're struggling. Like you said, it's hard to ask for help. But yeah, just going back to that belonging, being one of those core values that we all want throughout our lives.
Yeah. So it goes against the grain to quit drinking because alcohol is the automatic connector. Like we're
Yep.
doing spots, we're sharing this bottle of wine around the table. We're all grabbing a cold brew and then going to sit on the deck or whatever it is we're doing. We are a species that wants to belong and needs to belong and has to have belonging for survival. And when that alcohol is the glue, and it is for all of us, we've chosen groups like that because we were drinkers ourselves, right? And then we are purposely putting ourselves on the outs. It's very counterintuitive. And it's like now we don't do that belonging thing. We don't do that thing that connects. We're putting ourselves on the outside on purpose, intentionally. We're choosing there. And it goes against everything that comes natural for us. So that's why it's really, really hard to
Mhm.
drinking. And then to go back in those social situations and expect yourself to not have feelings about that, right? To not
Yeah.
feel so stressed out that you want to drink and to calm down those feelings of stress because you've just chosen to put yourself on the outs.
Yeah, which going back to loneliness, you don't have to be alone to feel lonely. So a lot of people feel lonely in a group of drinkers, if you're trying not to drink. How do
Right.
you deal with loneliness?
Yeah. So, and drinking isolates us too. It takes us further and further. So, I think my loneliness started. I think I thought I was friends with people, but I was drinking. And in fact, people were noticing. I had a friend ask me once, like, well, are you happy? And I was so offended that she asked it because even though I was drowning in my own drinking and I was miserable in my job and I was full of grief and shame and very clearly not happy, I was like, how dare she? Like, she wishes she had everything I have. Like, how couldn't I be happy? I have this perfect house, this perfect spouse, these perfect kids, this very impressive job title. Like, I am doing great. How dare you ask me that? Right. And now I'm like, I was in denial. I was absolutely miserable, but it was my protection to say everything was okay. I was okay. I had to keep merging to I was okay. Because if I didn't, I would crumble. And what was the options for me? Right? Like I didn't have time for a breakdown. I couldn't see
Mhm.
how my life would continue if I surrendered in any way. I was just trying to keep up. And I was so full of shame that I just had to keep saying everything's okay even though it wasn't. So I wasn't being honest in my friendships. And I was walking around with a secret. The secret
Yeah.
was a lot of secrets, probably, but one was I'm terrified that I drink too much and I don't know how to quit. I don't really want this to be a real problem for me. How do I hide it?
And then how do you overcome that? Like how do you tell your friends? How do you tell someone else?
You know what? When I first did, well, first I just fell to my knees to my husband and said, I need help and this is it, you know, and that was the first time I did that after I I had gone 3 years with on-off drinking. My last day one, I just really surrendered and asked for help, which I had never done. So that was different. With my friends, it was very interesting. I was spending the most time with people that I drank the most with because I was at the end of my drinking, right? There was 2 friends in particular I sat down with on that day one and cried and said, "I'm so sorry. I have to quit drinking. I'm so sorry. I can't do this anymore." It was like the saddest thing that I wouldn't be a drinking buddy with them, that I wouldn't be able to drink, and that this was going to change our friendship and everything. It was very morbid. It was very sad. I was just crying and I was so sorry that I couldn't be a better drinker or hang in there with them in the drinking, right? And looking back, that's so funny because it was the healthiest, best possible decision. It was the only most beautiful option for me. And it is something to celebrate so big and hard. It's nothing to cry about. Quitting drinking. I mean, definitely you cry because it's a change, but it is something it is good for you is the response to that. Like, that's amazing. Congratulations. But one of them quit drinking with me for a
Like,
whole,
so when you shared that, she was
yeah,
like,
I
"I
think I
got
want to do
you."
that too. Yeah. She's like, I think I would do that too.
Wow.
Yep. And then the other one has been my number one biggest support. So I went to her house after a happy hour. I had a happy hour where I didn't drink. And then I went to her house where we were going to have our usual Thursday night, like drinking thing. And I said, drink whatever you want. I just got back from this happy hour. It was so hard. I didn't drink. I'm going to have a sparkling water. Do whatever you want. I don't want to make you feel weird. Like, we'll just hang out. And she's like, no, I have to do this real estate class later. We'll both have sparkling water. So we had these orange sparkling waters. She chopped up an orange garnish for it. We put it in a beautiful glass and we went outside and drank it together. And I was like, it's not so bad. She's like, it's not so bad at all. It's actually better for me. And then, I mean, she would slap a drink out of my hand if I even tried, and she's a drinker, right? So they were very, very supportive and it has changed throughout the years. But it started with me giving them a big apology that I was going to quit drinking.
Wow. Well, I'm so glad you got that response because I think people are terrified to tell their friends. Well, I would always tell my friends I'm taking a break, so they always knew that. So I didn't quite, it was easier for me to frame it like as a break, as a health thing. I'm drying out, I'm doing a dry month. So that was easier for me. It wasn't till I had actually gotten some traction and some days under me that I started talking more about how it was so hard for me. And I would say all my friends, my true friends, were very supportive. And some of them were like, "Hey, I'm having a problem too," or, they could commiserate. And so that was helpful for me. I have had some people that share like they haven't had great responses from friends, that some of their friends don't understand. They're like, "Oh, you're fine. You don't really have a problem. Like, you're okay." And maybe those friends are in their own denial or whatnot, but they haven't had a great response. Most people, though, I would say it's such a relief when you share your truth, when you share, like, I have a problem.
Was it for you when you went back and said, okay, I've been taking these breaks, but actually I feel so much better without it. I'm not going to be drinking. It was hard for me. It was hard for me to let it go
Yeah, I think it was a relief.
because it was like the secret was out.
Yeah. You know that meme that says, like, the 3 hardest things to say are, "I have a problem, I need help, and Worcestershire sauce." But those 2 things, "I have a problem and I need help," like, those are really fucking hard to say, especially women where we're like, "We
Yeah.
can do it. We can do it all. I don't need help. I'm fine." Like, you're the whole little meme of, "Fine and the world's on fire." But
Right.
I don't
Mhm.
know, somehow we have lost that vulnerability of just being like, "Hey, I'm struggling. I'm a human. I'm struggling. I need help."
I feel like that's a really, really beautiful message, Deb. Thank you for saying that. Worcestershire sauce.
What and bonus points if you can spell it.
Worcestershire. No. because that's literally what I did with my husband. I said, I have a problem. I need help. And you know what?
Mm.
That's what I did with you on our Marco Polos when we had the opportunity
Yeah.
together to bring our friendship to a deeper level, was saying, I have a problem and I could use some help. So if anybody listening to this podcast wants to know how to make a friend or how to deepen a friendship or how to be authentic or real or find a safe place, person, relationship for you, I think we can definitely use that meme. I think you say, is this somebody that I can say, I have a problem, I need help? And if you can't, like, why not? What needs to change? Or is that not a safe person? And when you're hunting for new friends, is this a person that you feel is as non-judgmental as Deb is and that you could never be too much to? And you could say, I have a problem and I need help. And you're not friends, maybe like attract or repel. You're not really friend, like deep friends with somebody that you couldn't say that to, right? Even if it's that minor problem at work or a mom problem with your mom group or whatever it is, acting like we have everything together all the time doesn't create friendships. It doesn't make connection. But
Mhm.
saying you have a problem and I could use some help does.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to suffer in silence, right?
Yeah. And that's what somebody says me too, right? I mean, somebody has an opportunity to say me too. And I think that's what really, really connects us is kind of our struggles, not our strengths.
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, I guess I'm lucky that every time I have shared, it's just made relationships stronger. And it's made the shame go away, the whole shame can't live in the dark. You
Yeah.
shine a light on it. And yeah, I mean, we're just all humans. We're
Yeah.
not perfect. Nobody is.
Yeah. And pretending to be doesn't give us friendships. And I think even with you are like, oh my God, she's so successful. She's doing all these things. When we got to know each other a little bit and I shared some things, you're like, oh, okay. Like even you struggle with this or that, or even you have questions about this or that. Like it's not all what you think it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So get deep with people, get to know people, and you can make an internet friend. So I think saying I like you, I mean, you reach out to somebody and you just say, I like you, that will be well received. I can't imagine a person in the world that would turn that down. They would say, oh my gosh, get over here. No, baby, get over here. I'm going to latch on. I'm going to take my claws and now you're in. I'm going to Marco you. I'll share with the world, no shame. A 17-minute Marco the other day.
No, that's because I do those for you.
We could have been a podcast. That could have been a podcast. So today we
A
have a
podcast.
good about report. Thank God. Yeah. So we can share it with the world. But yeah, any final tips to making a friend or being a friend or navigating friendships?
Well, I was just thinking about like that's that whole how do we make friends when we're adults? Like, where do we find them? How do we, and it's kind of it's almost like you're dating,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And so it's finding like you want to find like minded people, or I have a friend, her husband said, find heart minded people. So it can be reaching out to people on Instagram, like it could be if that's your jam. It could be looking on apps, looking for meetup groups, maybe even through your work, maybe inviting someone for coffee. Maybe it's community, maybe it's church, like I mean, I know that there are other people out there that are lonely and they are looking for connection too. What would you say? What advice do you have for finding and making new friends? Oh, the gym. I was going to say the gym too. I've made some good friends at the Young Men's Christian Association, also
Yeah.
known as the Y.
Like yoga studios and stuff like that. Like any groups, my gym definitely has things like Group Honor Living Social has activities. So, for connection. But yeah, communities, any kind of community or support groups that you can research and find are definitely ways to get out there. But you're not going to make a friend without being vulnerable and you have to put yourself out there. So you have to initiate too. Like people might not necessarily just come to you and say, I like you and I want to be your friend. You might have to reach out to them. And so you do have to have a little skin in the game yourself. And you do have to risk being rejected if that person doesn't want to go for a walk or doesn't want to have coffee. And it is like dating, like you keep taking it a step further and sharing more, and it's matched, it's mirrored by the other person, and then you see where this will go. But honestly, I went on a sober retreat, and that's how I made some really good sober friends, spending time together. Those are great opportunities. I have a sober community. You have a sober community, I know, and people in there have become buddied up with each other. So if you have something in common like sobriety, finding a community of heart-minded, like-minded people like that can work. And I know people have this for cancer support groups or divorce support groups or anything that you have overcome. There are support groups or widow groups, right? Like things that are or, parents of kids with special needs, things like that that automatically connect you, looking to find support in that way.
Yeah, I want to share this poem with you, not
I love
written by me. You don't want a poem written by me. I was trying to move it, but I can't. Okay. This is from Donna Ashworth, who I love her poems and her work. This is just called Friendships. Says, I don't think friendships are given enough credit. We sign no contract, we say no vows, and yet we are there for each other. For better or for worse, in sickness and in health. We laugh together in life-giving amounts. We cry together without shame. We pull each other up out of the mud again and again and again. I don't think friendships are given enough credit. Unwritten love stories, each and every one.
So true. So true.
Oh,
We are
it's a love story.
our love stories, and we have a love story too. Thank
I
you.
know. We have a little cute love story.
We have our meet cute. We have it all. Tell everybody where they can find you, follow you, so they can be your friend too. Everyone's gonna want to be your friend. Now I'm gonna get jealous because everybody's gonna want to be your friend, and I'm gonna be like, I was here first.
No, you're the more the merrier, Heather.
Okay.
Yeah, you can find me at Alcohol Tipping Point. I'm on Instagram. I have a podcast. I have a website, alcoholtippingpoint.com. And if you're ever in Boise, hit me up and let's go to coffee or go on a walk, go to the Greenbelt. I would love to. I would love to meet you. I love meeting people. I love hearing stories. So yeah, that's how they can find me.
Awesome. Thank you, Deb. Thanks for tackling this topic of friendship and for being my new best friend. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Peripeteia Podcast, a talk show for women. Join us in the Insider community with a 7-day free trial to continue the conversation at ditchthedrink.com. And don't forget to download my free ebook, The 12 Truths to Change Your Life. Do it for the plaque. We'll see you in the next episode. Lots of love.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Alcohol Tipping Point podcast. Please share and review the show so you can help other people too. I want you to know I'm always here for you, so please reach out and talk to me on Instagram at Alcohol Tipping Point and check out my website, alcoholtippingpoint.com, for free resources and help. No matter where you are on your drinking journey, I want to encourage you to just keep practicing, keep going. I promise you are not alone and you are worth it. Every day you practice not